ሰላም ተማሪዎች በሽመልስ ቲዩብ እየተዘጋጀ የሚቀርብላችሁ የቲዩቶሪያል ክላስ ነው። ባለፈው እንደነገርኳችሁ ይሄ ቲዩቶሪያል ዋና ዓላማው መምህራኖቻችሁ የሚሰጧችሁን ቲዩቶሪያል የሚተካ ሳይሆን እንደ ተጨማሪ አይታችሁት የሚያግዛችሁ ከሆነ በዛ መልኩ ነው እየተዘጋጀ ያለው። እዚህ ጋር እንደምታዩት ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ ቴስት ብሉፕሪንታችሁ ላይ አምስተኛው ቴም ላይ ነው የሚገኘው። እዚህ ጋር ቴም 5 ጀንደር አድቮኬሲ ኤንድ ዲቨሎፕመንት ፕራክቲስ የሚል አለ። እቺ ፓርት እዚህ ጋር ነው የሚገኘው። በዚህ ቴም ስር እንደምታዩት አራት ኮርሶች አሉ። በዋናነት እዚህ ጋር ሪሰርች ሜቶዶሎጂ አለ፣ ፕሮጀክት ፕላኒንግ ኤንድ ማኔጅመንት አለ፣ ሶስተኛ ፖሊሲ ፎርሙሌሽን ኤንድ አናላይሲስ አለ፣ አራተኛ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ አለ። ስለዚህ በዋናነት ዛሬ በዚህ ቱቶሪያል ፎከስ አድርጌ ወደ እናንተ ማሳያችሁ ስለ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ ይኖራል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ባለፈው እንደምታስታውሱት ፌሚኒስት ቲዮሪ ላይ እንደሰራውላችሁ ቱቶሪያሉ በዋናነት ቤዝ የሚያደርገው ምን ላይ ነው? ቴስት ብሉፕሪንቱ ላይ ያንዳንዱ ኮርስ ላይ ምን አይነት ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቭ አለ የሚለውን መሰረት አድርጌ ነው ለማዘጋጀት እየሞከርኩ ያለሁት። እዚህም ላይ እንደምታዩት በጣም በርካታ ኦብጀክቲቮች አሉ። ነገር ግን እዚህ ቴም ውስጥ ያለው አራት ኮርስ እንደመሆኑ መጠን እዚህ ጋር ያሉት የምታዩቸው በሙሉ የሁሉም ኮርሶች ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቭ ናቸው። ነገር ግን አሁን ፎከስ የምናደርገው ምን ላይ ነው? መጨረሻ ላይ የምታዩቸው ሁለት ኦብጀክቲቮች የዚህ ኮርስ ወይም የጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ ኮርስ ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቮች ናቸው ማለት ነው። የመጀመሪያው ምንድነው? explain the basic concept of gender mainstreaming የሚለው የመጀመሪያው ኦብጀክቲቭ ነው። ሁለተኛው ደግሞ identify the techniques and tools for gender mainstreaming የሚለው ሁለተኛው ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቭ ሆና ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ እንዳጠቃላይ ኤግዚት ኤግዛማችሁ ላይ ይህን ኮርስ በተመለከተ የሚመጡ ስንት ጥያቄዎች አሉ? 6 ጥያቄዎች አሉ። እዚህ ጋር እንደምታዩ 6 ጥያቄዎች አሉ። እነዚህ 6 ጥያቄዎች እነዚህን ሁለት ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቮች መሰረት አድርገው የሚወጡ ጥያቄዎች ይሆናሉ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ የዚህን ኮርስ ቱቶሪያል የምሰጣችሁ ቅድም መግቢያ ላይ እንደነገርኳችሁ የዚህ ቱቶሪያል ዋና ዓላማ መምህራኖቻችሁ የሚሰጧችሁን ቱቶሪያል የሚተካ ሳይሆን እነሱ በዋናነት ከሚሰጧችሁ ቱቶሪያል እንደ ተጨማሪ አድርጋችሁ እንድታዩት ነው የሚፈልገው። ስለዚህ በዚህ ኮርስ የምንሰጣችሁ ቱቶሪያል እነዚህን ሁለት ስፔሲፊክ ኦብጀክቲቮች መሰረት ያደረጉና እንደ አጠቃላይ ደግሞ አጠቃላይ ኮርሱን ሪሄርስ ለማድረግ ለማስተዋወስ በሚመቻችሁ መንገድ አጠር አድርጌ አሳያችኋለሁ ማለት ነው። በዛ መንገድ እንድትከታተሉ ነው የሚጋብዛችሁ። Okay, let us start from the very concept of the course, gender mainstreaming. So, what is gender mainstreaming for you? So, first of all, you have to effectively define the meaning of gender mainstreaming. As you all know, from your class sessions, you are aware of what is the meaning of gender mainstreaming, but also for your exit exam preparation, maybe the questions will begin from defining effectively the right meaning of gender mainstreaming. So let us begin this tutorial by defining the term what is gender mainstreaming. Okay, as you all know, gender mainstreaming is the process of assessing the implication of planned actions. The planned actions may be legislations, policies, programs, and so on, for both women and men at all levels. So remember this definition, okay? It is defined as the process of assessing the implication of any planned action, including legislations, policies, or programs at any area, at all levels, for what? For both women and men, okay? ስለዚህ ምናልባት ከደፊኒሽኑ ጋር ተያይዞ ለወንዶች ወይም ለሴቶች ብቻ ተነጥሎ የተዘጋጀ የሜንስትሪም አክቲቪቲ እንደሆነ ተደርጎ ጥያቄው ሊመጣ ስለሚችል በዚህ እንዳትሸወዱ። ሁለቱንም ጾታዎች እኩል በየትኛውም ፕሮግራም በየትኛውም ስትራቴጂ በየትኛውም ሌጅስሌሽን እኩል ተጠቃሚ ለማድረግ የመጣ ኮንሴፕት መሆኑን በደንብ ግራስፕ ማድረግ መቻል አለባችሁ ማለት ነው። ሶ we can define gender mainstreaming in this way. The next, after the definition, it will become what is the aim or the objective of gender mainstreaming. Okay, so the objective of gender mainstreaming is to integrate gender concerns or gender issues into all aspects to achieve gender equality. Okay, the main goal of gender mainstreaming is achieving gender equality where at all level. For what? For both men and women. So this is the very objective or the very aims of gender mainstreaming. So you have to remember the definition and the objective of gender mainstreaming. Then let us go to the history of gender mainstreaming. Where and when gender mainstreaming idea is established, when the issue of gender mainstreaming is raised at the first time. Okay, so as a history, gender mainstreaming is established as an intergovernmental mandate in the Beijing Declaration. As you all know, for the first time, the term gender mainstreaming is established in the Beijing platform for discussion during 1995, and then it goes to different places and times. For example, in 1997, and also it is elaborated in a better way in General Assembly Special Session of the United Nations in 2000. So when we see the history of the gender mainstreaming concept, it started when? In the Beijing Declaration at 1995. Okay, so maybe the questions will come where gender mainstreaming is starting for the first time. Okay, so በዚህ መንገድ ጥያቄው ከመጣ መቼ ነው ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ የሚለው ኮንሴፕት የመጣው? በቤጂንግ ዲክላሬሽን ፎር አክሽን በሚል በ1995 ከተለያዩ ሀገሮች ተውጣጥተው በሄዱ የሀገራት ተወካዮች አማካኝነት ቻይና ቤጂንግ ውስጥ በ1995 ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ኮንሴፕቱ ዲፋይን ይሆንና እንዴት እንደሚፈጸም ስትራቴጂ ወጣለት በዛ ሰዓት ነው ማለት ነው። ኦኬ ሶ ሂስትሪውን በተመለከተ ይሄን ነገር ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ። Okay, the other important point regarding to gender mainstreaming is its importance. So what is the importance of gender mainstreaming? So you have to remember this concept because some questions will be arise from this points at the time of your exam. So we can mention different importance of or many types of importance of gender mainstreaming, but it is enough to remember these importances which are highlighted in this slide. Okay, for example, we can mention that it puts people at the heart of policy making. It leads to better government. It involves both women and men and makes full use of human resources. It makes gender equality issues visible in the mainstream of society, and it takes into account the diversity among women and men. So the very importance of gender mainstreaming is it promotes equal opportunities. Okay, when we talk about gender mainstreaming, both genders, especially men and women, will have equal opportunity for what? For participation, for decision making, and also for benefiting from the output of different policy implementation. So it promotes equal opportunities and it leads to better governance. Okay, because it achieving gender equality. If equality is achieved, we can reduce what? Discrimination. If we reduce discrimination, we are achieving what? Better governance system. So it leads to better governance system, and it's also very important in achieving visibility of gender issues in a society. Okay, so you have to remember those points related to the importance of gender mainstreaming. The other one is what are the enabling conditions to implement gender mainstreaming at different levels? What are the opportunities or enabling conditions? So in this regard, we can mention there are different enabling conditions. For example, we have to first prepare resources. We have to ensure the involvement of different stakeholders. As you know, gender mainstreaming is not the task of one individual or one sector. It needs the collaboration of different stakeholders. So stakeholder involvement is very important. And monitoring and evaluation is also very important in implementing gender mainstreaming. It helps us to generate knowledge because as many stakeholders are involved in implementing gender mainstreaming, knowledge generation will be held, and gender experience will be implemented in different areas. So we can mention these points as enabling points in implementing gender mainstreaming. So to sum up, the basic enabling conditions of gender mainstreaming are preparation, resource, stakeholder involvement, monitoring and evaluation, knowledge generation, and gender expertise. Okay. The next important point is what are the steps of implementing gender mainstreaming. This is very important. Okay. This is very important. You have to always remember the steps in implementing gender mainstreaming at different places, at different levels. Okay. So the major steps of gender mainstreaming are: step one, developing a shared goal and commitment. We have to first develop a shared goal. Then we have to prepare a gender profile of that organization or that community. And step three is formulating an active plan for mainstreaming. Step four, costing. Step five, costing means we have to allocate budgets to implement that activity. Step five, implementing planned activities and documentation. After we are allocating the specified budgets, we have to go to implementation. And the last step is we have to conduct thorough monitoring and evaluation. Okay, so those are the major steps in implementing gender mainstreaming. So we have to always remember those points. Okay, have to remember those points. Okay, the other point is related to gender needs and gender planning. Okay, it is found in your reading material of chapter 2. In this part, we'll discuss the type of gender needs. As you know, gender mainstreaming is implemented based on the needs of different individuals, groups, and communities. So maybe there may be some questions related to the type of gender needs in your existing exam. So you have to remember what are gender needs are. Okay. So there are two types of gender needs, as you remember in your classroom teaching. For example, the first one is practical gender needs, and the second one is strategic gender needs. So you have to remember these two types of gender needs. Okay. So what is practical gender need? It is immediate, related to survival, or related to basic needs. For example, food, shelter, health, and so on. So this type of need is not challenging the traditional gender roles. Okay, so it is an immediate need of especially women's practical need, women's basic needs, as I told you, like food, shelter, and clothing. So you have to remember this as type of gender needs. Okay. So what is the next need? Strategic gender need. Okay, strategic gender need. This is a long-term need. It aimed at addressing inequalities. Okay, there are different inequalities between men and women. There is education inequality. There is legal right inequality. There is empowerment inequality. There is economic inequality. There is political inequality. So those are strategic needs, which need long-term efforts and activities in order to achieve those needs. Okay, so those needs are related to what? They are related to gender mainstreaming activity. So gender mainstreaming is mainly undertaken in order to meet what? Thus strategic gender needs. እነዚህ ኒዶች በዋናነት የረጅም ጊዜ የሴቶችን ፍላጎት ለማሟላት ልንተገብራቸው የሚገቡ ሲስተማቲክ የሆኑ ችግሮች ናቸው። ስለዚህ ጀንደር ሚኒስትሪሚንግ በዋናነት ፎከስ አድርጎ የሚሰራው ምን ላይ ነው? ይህን ስትራቴጂክ ኒድ ምን ማድረግ ነው? አቺቭ ማድረግ ላይ ነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይህን ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ። the other concept is gender planning. Gender planning. So you have to remember this term. What is gender planning? It focuses on addressing unequal gender relations and structural inequalities. Okay? ስትራክቸራል የሆኑ ኢኒኳሊቲዎችን ፕላን አድርገን የምንፈታበት የጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ ቱል ነው። ኦኬ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ ቱል ነው። ዋት አር ዘ ስቴፕስ ኢን ጀንደር ፕላኒንግ? ኢት ሃዝ ኢትስ ኦን ስቴፕስ። ፎር ኤግዛምፕል ኢት ኢንክሉድስ ዲፋይኒንግ ፕሮብሌምስ ቢፎር ዊ አር ፕላኒንግ ኤ ጀንደር ፕላን we have to define the problem, we have to see different policies, we have to allocate enough budgets in order to implement that plan, and we have to conduct a thorough monitoring and evaluation activity. So those are the steps in implementing gender planning. And maybe there are the characteristics of a good plan. For example, you can mention a good gender planning should have a clear objective, and it should be simple, it should be flexible, we can change it at any time, and it should be balanced, it should balance the need of men and women, and it should include different stakeholders. So its stakeholder involvement is very important. So we can mention those issues as a characteristics of a good gender planning. So you have to read around those points. Okay, the other important point is for your exam preparation is about gender analysis. Okay, about gender analysis. There may be some questions around this point, so you have to remember what is gender analysis, what is the definition of gender analysis, what are the different frameworks or tools which helps us to implement gender analysis. So I'll give you some highlight related to this point. So in order to define gender analysis is a systematic gathering and examining of information on gender differences and social relations. Okay, as you remember, it is a systematic data collection techniques in order to identify what is a gender gap between men and women around organizations, around communities and individuals. Okay, በኢንዲቪጁዋል ሌቨል ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በኦርጋናይዜሽን ሌቨል ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በኮሚኒቲ ሌቨል ሊሆን ይችላል። ያለው የጀንደር ጋፕ ምንድን ነው የሚለውን አናላይዝ ለማድረግ ለመተንተን የምንተገብረው ሲስተማቲክ የሆነ ዴታ ኮሌክሽን ሜተድ ጀንደር አናላይሲስ እንለዋለን ማለት ነው። ሶ ኢት ኢዝ ኤ ቱል to understand gender relations and identify inequalities. Okay, so there are different frameworks under gender analysis. As you remember, for example, you can mention Harvard analytical framework, Moser framework, gender analysis matrix or GAM framework, capacity and vulnerability analysis or CVA የምንለው, and women empowerment framework, and lastly social relation framework or SRF የምንላቸው ማለት ነው። እነዚህ አጠቃላይ በጀንደር አናላይሲስ ስር የሚገኙ ጀንደር አናላይሲስ ፍሬምወርኮች ናቸው ማለት ነው። እነዚህን በደንብ ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ። for example, the first one is Harvard analytical framework. It focuses on activities, access, control of resources, influencing factors, and project cycle analysis. የሪሶርስ አክሰስ ኤንድ ኮንትሮል ላይ ፎከስ አድርገን መስራት የምንፈልግ ከሆነ ይሄ ጀንደር አናላይሲስ ምንድነው የምንለው ማለት ነው? ሃርቫርድ አናሊቲካል ፍሬምወርክ እንለዋለን። ኦኬ ሃርቫርድ አናሊቲካል ፍሬምወርክ እንለዋለን ማለት ነው። አክሰስ ቱ ሪሶርስ ላይ ፎከስ አድርጎ የሚሰራ ፍሬምወርክ ስለሆነ ማለት ነው። the other one is ሞሰር ፍሬምወርክ የምንለው አለ። ሞሰር emphasize women's triple role, productive, reproductive and community role የምንላቸው አሉ, including practical needs, strategic needs and stakeholder involvement. እነዚህ ላይ ፎከስ አድርገን አናላይሲስ የምንሰራ ከሆነ ሞሰር ፍሬምወርክ እንጠቀማለን ማለት ነው። ምን አይነት ሮል አለ ኮሚኒቲ ውስጥ፣ ማን ምን ይሰራል፣ ፕሮዳክቲቭ ሮል የማን ነው፣ ሪፕሮዳክቲቭ ሮል የማን ነው፣ ኮሚኒቲ ሮል የማን ነው፣ ማን ፕራክቲካል ኒድ አለው፣ ማን ስትራቴጂክ ኒድ አለው የሚለውን መስራት የምንፈልግ ከሆነ Moser framework is the derived gender analysis framework. Okay, so you have to identify the difference between each frameworks. እያንዳንዱ ፍሬምወርክ ላይ ያለውን ዲፈረንስ አይደንቲፋይ ማድረግ አለባችሁ። the other one is gender analysis matrix or GAM የምንለው ማትሪክስ ነው ፍሬምወርክ ነው። it is a community based tool analyzing labor, time, resources, culture and cultural impacts. እነዚህን አራት ፓራሜትሮች ተጠቅመን አናላይሲስ የምንሰራ ከሆነ we call it gender analysis matrix or GAM. ሌበር ይጠቀማል፣ ማን ምን ይሰራል፣ ታይም፣ ሪሶርስ ኤንድ ካልቸራል ኢምፓክት። ሶ ዚስ ታይፕ ኦፍ ፍሬምወርክ ኢዝ ጀንደር አናላይሲስ ማትሪክስ። ዘ አዘር ዋን ኢዝ ካፓሲቲ ኤንድ ቨልነሬብል አናላይሲስ ፍሬምወርክ የምንለው ወይም ሲቪኤ የምንለው አለ። ኢት ፎከስ ኦን ስትሬንግዝ ኤንድ ዊክነስ ኢን ኢመርጀንሲስ። ስትሬንግዝ ኤንድ ዊክነስ ላይ ቤዝ አድርገን ስፔሻሊ ኢመርጀንሲስ የሆኑ ኢሹዎች ላይ የምንሰራ ከሆነ ሲቪኤ እንጠቀማለን። ኦር ካፓሲቲ ኤንድ ቨልነራቢሊቲ አናላይሲስ። The other one is women empowerment framework. As you know, ሎንጊው የምትባል ሴት ነች የዚህ ፍሬምወርክ ባለቤት። እዚህ ምን ላይ ትኩረት አድርጎ የሚሰራው ኢምፓወርመንት ላይ ፎከስ አድርገን የምንሰራ ከሆነ አናላይሳችን ይህን ፍሬምወርክ እንጠቀማለን። ኢት ሴንትራላይዝስ ጀንደር ኢኳሊቲ ኤንድ ኢምፓወርመንት አዝ ዲቨሎፕመንት ኦብጀክቲቭ። Okay, the other important concept related to gender mainstreaming is about gender budgeting. I think you are familiar with this terminology. So in this part we will discuss what is the definition of gender budgeting and what is the benefits of gender budgeting and what are the steps of gender budgeting. Okay, so gender budgeting ሲወራ ሶስት ነገሮችን ወይም አራት ነገሮችን ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ። First, what is its definition? What does that mean, gender budgeting? Then what are the benefits of gender budgeting? Why we implement gender budgeting in order to achieve gender equality? And what are the steps of gender budgeting? So ይህን ኢሹ በተመለከተ ጥያቄዎች ሊወጡ የሚችሉት አንድም ከዴፊኒሽኑ ነው፣ ሁለት ከጥቅሙ ነው፣ ሶስተኛ ደግሞ ከስቴፑ ጋር ተያይዞ ጥያቄዎች ሊመጡ ይችላሉ ማለት ነው። So let us begin by defining gender budgeting. Okay, gender budgeting analyzes budgets from a gender perspective to ensure equitable resource allocation. Okay, it is the main objective of gender budgeting is ensuring equitable resource allocation. Okay, it preparing budgets or analyzing them from gender ፐርስፔክቲቭ ከጀንደር ፐርስፔክቲቭ አንፃር ምን ማድረግ ነው? በጀትን በመስሪያ ቤት ደረጃ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በግለሰብ ደረጃ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በሃውስሆልድ ደረጃ ሊሆን ይችላል። ይሄን ታሳቢ አድርጎ በጀትን አሎኬት ማድረግ ማለት ነው። ኦኬ፣ በክላስ ሩማችሁ ላይ የተለያየ ምሳሌ ተሰጥቷችሁ ሊሆን ይችላል። ለምሳሌ ትምህርት ቤት ላይ ሴት ተማሪዎች እንዳያቋርጡ ለሞዴስ ወይም ለንጽህና መጠበቂያ የሚሆን መግዣ የሚሆን በጀት ራሱን ችሎ የሚመደብ ከሆነ we call it gender budgeting. Okay, ምክንያቱም የሴት ተማሪዎችን የማቋረጥ መጠን ምን ያደርጋል? ይቀንሳል ማለት ነው። ሶ ሌላም ቦታ ላይ በተመሳሳይ መንገድ ማለት ነው እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮችን ታሳቢ አድርገን በጀት የምንመድብ ከሆነ we call it gender budgeting. Okay, so it is budgeting gender budgeting analyzes budgets from a gender perspective to ensure equitable resource allocation የሚለውን ማስታወስ መቻል አለባችሁ። The other definition of gender budgeting is it is not a separate budget for women but highlight gaps between policy and implementation. Okay, አንዳንዴ ዝም ብሎ ለሴት ብቻ ብሎ ገንዘብ መመደብ የሚል ዴፊኒሽን ስላለ እሱን በዛ መንገድ እንዳትረዱ። ኦኬ፣ ምን ማድረግ ነው? ባላንስ ማድረግ ነው። ኦኬ፣ ስለ ጀንደር ስናወራ ሁለቱም ጾታ ነው። ሁለቱም ጾታ ተጠቃሚ ሊያደርግ የሚችል የሁሉንም ፍላጎት መሰረት ያደረገ የጀንደር የበጀት ክላሲፊኬሽን ምን ማድረግ ነው? ኢምፕሊመንት ማድረግ ማለት ነው። ኦኬ፣ ሶ በዛ መንገድ እንድትረዱት ነው። The other one is what is the benefit of gender budgeting? Okay, it improves transparency, resource allocation, policy outcomes and efficiency. Okay, ከምንም በላይ ግልጽነቱን ከበጀት ጋር ተያይዞ ያለውን የትራንስፓረንሲ ኢሹ ምን ያደርጋል? ያሻሽላል። it helps to equitable resource allocation, ፍትሃዊ የሆነ የሪሶርስ አሎኬሽን እንዲኖር ያደርጋል። it improves policy outcomes. Okay, ቀደም እንደነገርኳችሁ የተሻለ ፖሊሲ ውጤት እንዲመጣ ለምሳሌ ትምህርት ላይ የተሻለ የትምህርት ፖሊሲ ያላት ሀገሪቱ ያ ፖሊሲ በተሻለ መንገድ ውጤት እንዲያመጣ ወይም የሴትና የወንድ ተማሪዎች ቁጥር እስከ መጨረሻው ድረስ እኩል አብሮ እንዲሄድና ውጤታማ እንዲሆኑ ያግዛል። and it helps to achieve efficiency okay ውጤታማነትንም ያግዛል ማለት ነው። so we can generalize the benefits of gender budgeting as improving transparency, resource allocation, policy outcome and efficiency ብለን በዚህ መንገድ ጀነራላይዝ ልናደርገው እንችላለን ማለት ነው። so the next one is what are the steps of gender budgeting? So we have to first describe gender situations. መጀመሪያ እዛ አካባቢ ያለውን የጀንደር ሲቹዌሽን ያለውን የኢኳሊቲ መጠን ምን እንደሆነ በደንብ ዲስክራይብ ማድረግ አለብን። we have to ensure gender sensitive strategies. The next one is allocate adequate budget and we have to monitor expenditures and asset impact. So those are the steps of gender budgeting okay gender budgeting. So you have to remember this one. The other concept is related to gender audit. When we talk about gender mainstreaming there are different concepts. So the other one is gender audit. So like that of gender budgeting, gender auditing also have its own definition, its own objective and its own steps. So let me give you some highlight about gender auditing. What is the definition of gender auditing? So as we see from the slide, we can define gender auditing as a self-assessment tool to evaluate how gender issues are addressed within an organization policies, programs and budgets okay. It is an assessment tool or a check and balance tool whether gender mainstreaming is effectively implemented or not in that specified organization okay. የዛ ኦርጋናይዜሽን ውስጥ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ በትክክል ተግባራዊ ሆኗል አልሆነም የሚለውን ቼክ የምናደርግበት ቱል we call it gender auditing. ልክ ፋይናንሻል ኦዲቲንግ እንደሚሰራው ጀንደር ኦዲቲንግ ይሰራል ማለት ነው። So what is the objective of gender auditing? It enhance organizational capacity to promote gender equality and identify strengths and weaknesses okay. Enhancing organizational capacity is an organization capacity ማድረግ ነው ማሻሻል ለምን in order to achieve gender equality in the different activities of that organization okay. is an organization capacity gender equality በሚያመጣ መንገድ እንዲሰራ ካፓሲቲው ምን ማድረግ ነው ኢንሃንስ ማድረግ ነው መጨረሻም ጀንደር ኢኳሊቲ ምን ማድረግ ነው ፕሮሞት ማድረግ ነው and identifying the strengths and weakness of that organization ጥንካሬና ድክመቱ ከጀንደር ፐርስፔክቲቭ አንፃር ምንድነው የሚለውን after auditing we will identify its strengths and weakness okay. and at last we will go to what gender planning based on its strengths and weakness ጥሩ የሆነ ጀንደር ፕላኒንግ እንሰራለታለን ማለት ነው። so this is the objective of gender auditing. And what are the steps of gender auditing okay. What are the steps of gender auditing? There are at least 7 steps, so we have to remember these steps. First we can say preparing the audit. This is the first step. Conducting staff survey እናደርጋለን ምን ያክል ሰራተኛ አለ ምን አይነት እቅድ አለው and so on ምን አይነት በጀት ተመድቧል። then analyzing the data, we have to make data analysis and we have to digging deeper okay. We have to see the problems from the beginning. And the fifth step is turning results into action steps. After we find some issues, we have to turn that finding into actionable steps and we have to report to staff and leadership. This is the sixth step. And finally monitoring our gender action plan. So okay, the other important point related to gender mainstreaming course is what is the application of gender mainstreaming activities in Ethiopia okay. There may be some questions related to the implementation of gender mainstreaming in the context of Ethiopia. So in this part we will discuss what are the national initiatives which support gender equality, gender mainstreaming. There are different policies which are prepared in Ethiopian government to support gender mainstreaming activities. So we will discuss those national initiatives and different national policies like national women's policy, education and training policy, uh, national women policy, education and training policy, national population policy, and also what are the challenges of gender mainstreaming in Ethiopian context. So in this part, we will discuss about this points. Why? Because there may be some questions which will be prepared for your exit exam related to these points. Okay. So first, let us see the national initiatives. Okay, there are different policies which are implemented in Ethiopian government. Among them, the education policy or the Ethiopian education policies. The first policy which can be identified as national or public policy. So, what are the problems of this education policy related to gender issues? Okay. The education policy, first of all, focus on addressing inequalities in access, quality, and relevance of education. As you know, the Ethiopian education policy is focused on addressing addressing the problems related to access to education, problems related to quality education, and problems related to the relevance of education. Okay, so when we implement gender mainstreaming, we have to see what seems like the access of education for both genders. What seems like the delivering quality education for both genders, and what is the relevance of implementing Ethiopian education policy for both genders? Okay, so እነዚህ ነገሮች እናያለን ማለት ነው ስለ education policy ስናይ. The other one is there is a population policy. The aim of this policy is to harmonize population growth with resource utilization, reduce fertility rate, improve health outcomes, and empowering women. So what are the problems related to Ethiopian population policy? So you have to identify the challenges of each public policies. So for example, there are different challenges related to Ethiopian government policies when we see from gender perspective. ከጀንደር ፐርስፔክቲቭ አንጻር ስናየው ኢትዮጵያ የምትተገብራቸው የተለያዩ ፖሊሲዎች የተለያዩ ችግሮች አሉባቸው። ስለዚህ ጀንደር ሜንስትሪሚንግ የሚፈለገው ምንድነው? እነዚህን ፖሊሲዎች ከጀንደር ፐርስፔክቲቭ አንጻር አናላይዝ አድርገን ያሉባቸውን ችግሮች ምን ማድረግ ነው? አይደንቲፋይ ማድረግ ነው። አይደንቲፋይ ማድረግ ብቻ ሳይሆን ምንድነው የመፍትሄ አቅጣጫዎች ምን ማድረግ ነው? ፕሮፖዝ ማድረግ ነው። For example, we can see lack of legal basis. Most policies lack legal basis, inadequate integration of population variables, absence of monitoring frameworks, budget constraint, and socio-cultural barriers. So we can identify as a challenge those issues. And there are also factors affecting gender mainstreaming. What are the factors which affect gender mainstreaming? Okay, as you see from the slide, there are different factors affecting the implementation of gender mainstreaming. For example, including household dynamics, market-related factors, cultural norms, and perception of women roles are identified as the factor affecting the implementation of gender mainstreaming. Okay. So you have to remember those factors: household dynamics, norms, and roles. ምንድነው? ቤት ውስጥ አካባቢ ያለው የጀንደር ሮል አንድ ፋክተር ነው። ማርኬት ሪሌትድ ፋክተርስ ፎር ኤግዛምፕል ላክ ኦፍ skill and market opportunity for both genders, power, mobility, and gender role, country specific contextual factors, religion, culture, and so on, and perceptions of women's role in the society. So we can identify this. Okay, the other point related to this topic is what are the key challenges in implementing gender mainstreaming. Okay, we'll discuss the basic challenges of implementing gender mainstreaming. Maybe some questions will also arise from this perspective. So we can mention different challenges in implementing gender mainstreaming, but the key challenges identified in implementing gender mainstreaming are, for example, lack of gender awareness at any level, and attitudinal problem by individuals, organizations, politicians, and limited technical capacity of experts. As you know, there are not enough gender experts at every organization. So because of this problem, there is a technical capacity limit, and there is also accountability issue. Uh, Organization leaders are not accountable for not implementing gender mainstreaming in their respective organization and activity. So accountability issues one challenge, and financial or resource constraint is the other challenge. As you know, when we talk about gender budgeting, there should be enough allocation of finance to implement gender activities, but there is financial constraint in many organizations. This is also considered as a challenge, and there is also a coordination gap. Okay, coordination gap. This is the main challenge of implementing gender mainstreaming. Okay, as we discussed earlier, stakeholder involvement is very paramount in implementing gender mainstreaming. So there is a problem in coordinating different stakeholders at different levels. So as a challenge, we can mention those issues. So you have to remember when, if any question is arise in identifying the challenges in implementing gender mainstreaming. Okay. So, as a conclusion, we can conclude that gender. We are discussing the overview of gender mainstreaming, including gender mainstreaming is planning gender issues at every organization and conducting gender analysis, allocating gender budgeting, and conducting gender audits. And also, finally, we are discussing the main challenges of implementing gender mainstreaming with special focus on Ethiopian context and initiatives. So, gender mainstreaming emphasizes the importance of integrating gender perspective into policies and programs to achieve equality and sustainable development. Okay, so by remembering the two specific objectives which are found in your test blueprints, you have to read and you have to remember those pointers, and you can well prepare for your exam preparation. Okay. Thank you very much. In my next video, I will also deliver some tutorial pointers for another course. Thank you very much.